So here we are again with the Center for Higher Education and Learning. The speaker series live. And today I have the pleasure to speak again with Peter Maxwell-Slattery. Peter, welcome.
Thank you, Henning. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. And we share briefly information what to speak about. And again, as a reminder, the focus here of the center is on galactic education to learn about us, other species and planets around us. And I thought it would be great to speak about sanctuaries. What a surprise. We often reference that here and there, touch upon maybe your sanctuary. And the first question is, Peter, what is a sanctuary?
So there's a few ways you could look at this underneath like an umbrella. We could say it's a place of safety, a place of refuge, a place of prayer, a holy place. You've also got what we could say is nature sanctuaries as well, which where I am at Jaya Sanctuary, even though it's focused under a place of safety and prayer and contact, it's also got, which I didn't know until after the fact, apparently I'm in a corridor with maybe the most endangered birds in Australia, which there's so many beautiful exotic birds here. So my point with that is that there are also like bird sanctuaries or nature sanctuaries and what have you as well. So there's different ways you can look at it.
Yeah, thank you. I said it also to others. I think there are different types of sanctuaries, but yeah, thank you for saying that. And second question is, what is sacred space?
Good question. I'll preface this underneath an umbrella again. And why I'll say that is it will depend on the person or the people. A sacred space is somewhere, a location, a spot, an environment that we could say in some cases God, the divine, creator dwells, even though we could say our heart is a sacred space because God is within us. We're all an aspect of it and everything is an aspect of it. But when you repeatedly do prayers, clearings, the intention to connect with the divine, you are building a vortex portal spot that over time it builds up and builds up and builds up. Some people and some places that have sacred space, it may have been, and you've got churches and places around the world like this that, let's say somebody encountered Mother Mary and through the communication they are now to build a church in this spot. Someone else might have an experience with a certain avatar or one of the gods with little g. It could have been in India or in Tibet or a number of places that have these types of things happening. So a sacred space, even though we look at that and I say it's a place where in my example here with Jaya Sanctuary, it's a place where God dwells, the Holy Spirit, as well as many different types of saints, sages and masters, everyone from Kuan Yin to Mother Mary to Padmasambhava to Ganesh, Buddha, and different masters from off-world. In the Pleiades, Orion, Sirius, Andromeda, Arcturus, the list goes on, as well as the original spirits of the land connected to the natives, the aboriginals, the original people. Working with these energies every day like I do, praying with Source, doing clearings on a repetitive basis. The energy builds up and builds up, so what you're doing is you're building that sacred space. You're changing yourself on a cellular level, you're also changing the environment on an energetic level. And we saw this recently, which people can see on my post with Jaya Sanctuary. I had a friend here with dowsing rods that everywhere where I'm doing certain practices of landing and building the energy up in the stone circle, at the obelisk to Source, in the pyramid, and we actually did experiments where I do the appointments and the clearings and the prayers in here, as well as another spot, we could see the results. So I've gone on a bit there, but that's to break it down. Again, it will just depend on if people have a certain deity or avatar or actual source they're wanting to commune with, and they're dedicating their practices and the environment to that space, they're building that space up. And here it's very much amplified because the reason for having this place is so people can heal, people can have their own experiences, people can connect to the divine. But like I say, first and foremost, you're carrying the divine with you at all moments. But some environments can help hold space for people to strengthen or even acknowledge or experience that connection.
Oh, thank you, Peter. And what came to my mind now just is we can also personally hold space. The second thing I, in any case, wanted to bring up just briefly, I said it to others. There are things, from my perspective, which we could need on this planet. We could call that white space. And that is not necessarily what I understand sacred space, but nonetheless I want to leave that term here. And I also want to leave another term, what we already spoke about and some know better, is heart space. Mm-hmm. But from a different perspective. The planet is hollow. Some say we have our world here, on the surface, so to say, but there is the inner world. But some say also Mother Earth has a heart. Mm-hmm. And in other words, some say sacred space or these spaces could allow not only for us, for every species, for every living thing here, could allow for a better environment, a better state of things, of beingness. All flows and pulses differently and better. In any case, I want to add those.
That's a good point.
Those terminologies here.
Definitely, and that's what the ancients had. They had it in their own way, whether it's certain megalithic structures or what have you around the entire globe. I don't think there's a place in the world that doesn't have sacred space held, or they see areas as certain sacred space as well. So there is many different ways, but they do come down to being spiritual environments and respectful environments. And again, they can be sacred spaces for a number of reasons. So I think that was very valid and very good points that you added there as well.
Thank you, Peter. And the third question is, we just highlighted it or referenced it. Question is, why have you built Jaya Sanctuary? And I should add, you mentioned in one of our previous recordings, you said basically it was one of the things least expected.
Yeah, I think the universe sometimes picks you. I had somebody say to me in recent times. And where I am now, if you asked me this even a decade and a half ago, I would say that you would be crazy with what I would be doing. I'm 40 now. In my mid to late 20s, I ended up on television for UFOs, and it sort of hasn't stopped since then, though I'm a lifelong experiencer. But we could say it sort of ebbed and flowed for many years, from probably 12 years old up until the time that I'm speaking about, my mid to late 20s. I kept having visions of a place over many years, of a tree, a T-section of fence and a mound. And the long story short, after many years of this vision, it ended up being the back corner of this property. But how it came to be was, I knew probably from about 2010, maybe 11 or 12, it's hard to be exact, that I'd be doing what I'm doing now. I was naturally at that time taking people out to see the crafts, from family to friends to people that had an interest. I didn't know what CE5 really was at that time. It wasn't even on my radar with Dr. Greer or James Gilliland. I just was having these experiences, and somehow I knew when to go outside and I'd be there. And then it got to the point that just intention to connect these beings and their crafts, or the beings themselves in all form, would appear. And we could say that I was thrown into a situation to where this would be one of the main focus points without even knowing that it was. Meaning, sometimes you can be searching for what's my purpose, what am I meant to be doing, and if you can really just take the blinders off and just be present and look at what you're doing, sometimes you can see that you're actually already doing what you're meant to be doing, which I was and have been since then. But it was entwined with self-mastery, which is something in those early days I was getting into, to where I studied meditation, got trained in meditation and teaching meditation and Reiki, and the list now goes on to different disciplines with yoga and NLP and hypnotherapy and heaps of other things. Like, there's a whole wall of plaques, and I don't think the plaques even matter. It's because I wanted to learn the mechanics, because to me, if you've got yourself right, contact is a natural byproduct. It just happened to be that I'm one of the people with the most documented cases in modern times. But it comes down to self-mastery. And so I knew on and off that I'd be getting to something like Jaya Sanctuary, but I couldn't see how it would even be possible with no savings, travelling around, not saying how, if this is meant to happen, it's going to happen. And you see some people that they feel they're meant to be doing certain things and they're waiting for the universe to throw it on their lap or what have you. But to me, it's about meeting the universe halfway. And from all the appointments and people that I've helped, most, we could say that I haven't charged a lot of people. A lot of people, yes, in some cases, meaning these services that I provide, all that along with the books, along with everything that I've ever done in the last 6 years, once I went into this full time, everything went towards this, and there happened to be a gap open up in the market after a year of looking for somewhere, and this place appeared. Now, funny enough, James Gilliland said to me, who went on his own journey with ECD Ranch, said, "Did you look for the place with the pendulum?" And I said, "Well, I did actually." And it landed between Rutherglen and Corowa in Australia, basically between Victoria and New South Wales border. And I was just like, what's there? Like, nothing would be there. But this is what ended up being found a year later, and it used to be a nursery. But the funny thing as well is, about 20 plus years beforehand, I've actually planted the trees on the nature reserve on each side of the property when I worked for the government doing conservation work, where we planted trees, did farm fencing and cordoned off land just for plants, as well as build animal shelters. So literally 20 years later, after a job that I had and I planted trees, I'm actually living amongst them now. And this is how the universe works in mysterious ways. There's a lot of work involved with this, not only with me helping people and doing clearings and doing the spiritual practices and basically the job of admin, maintenance and everything else, but it is a big thing that dedication is key. It helps me with self-mastery. There's been a lot of sacrifices, up to including even with relationships and what have you. But my main thing, as I've said to you before, is that when I wake up, I ask the divine, God, Source, Creator, how can I be a vehicle for it to work through today, to assist others, but I also accept the blessings and abundance that comes with it, not out of fame or fortune, but so I can keep doing what I'm doing, because it's my purpose, it's my passion. And so I think when you're passionate about something, it's your purpose and vice versa. And it doesn't mean it will always be the same thing. But this is where you asked me a decade and a half ago what I'd be doing now, I'd be laughing. Even 6-7 years ago, I'd be going, what? But the universe works in mysterious ways, and it shows me as well that what can seem impossible is possible. And I surely know that from my own experiences where I've been to other worlds, physically and non-physically, in the interactions that I've had, and also the results of people being transformed. And that's what it comes down to, is human potentiality and how we can transform at a moment's notice. But it does take the dedication, it does take the practice, and I've been put in this position not because I'm special, but it's just obviously what the journey was meant to unfold for me as a cell of the divine, like you are and everyone else is. And I think we're all got that piece of the jigsaw puzzle. This just happens to be mine at this time.
Oh, thank you, Peter. And I find it a little funny what we spoke about before came to my mind again, this thing with the desert. When you said there, hey, you looked up or you came to the result, or that is the place, and you say, hey, there's nothing there. And again, we spoke about before about the desert, meaning there's the desert and then the rain comes and we see, I can just saw this little documentary, then everything is blooming, growing there.
Well,
I mean, you would never expect that.
No, we'll preface this just for the listeners and the viewers about you talking about, it's like rain in the desert, which is extremely rare. And it's like, well, one time I went to Uluru in the middle of Australia, and it rained, and it's beautiful because that thing's got waterfalls over it when it rains. But also what comes to mind is 5, 6, 7 years ago, I went past Area 51, and when I went to the little Alien Inn there, which is like the big mecca spot for UFO hunters, what have you. I was just driving through there on the way to Vegas as I was going to Grand Canyon and Sedona. And the lady there said, you're lucky you're here at such a good time because we're about to get rain for the first time. And I forget how long it was, but here I am again in the desert and the rain appears. So sometimes things can just seem like magic, but that's the magic of Source.
Yeah, wonderful. Anything to add, Peter?
Just follow your heart, people. And then we hear about this, and I don't want to sound airy-fairy, but if something's pulling you towards it and you don't understand it, that's you hitting an uncomfortable spot. But in that uncomfortable spot is all possibility. I think Joe Dispenza says it as when you're hitting the unknown, like you're hitting all possibility, or words to that effect. That's basically what I'm pointing out here. And what stops one is fear of the unknown and fear of security. But if it's really this that's navigating you, not this will include this. It will look at things in a different way, meaning the heart will include what the brain's got to say. It will take everything on board. But purely when we're in mental mind, it's repeating the same patterns. Repeating the same patterns, you're going to get the same results. So when you see those opportunities to drive somewhere, doing it at a different route, to swap your chores up, to swap ways up that you would normally do things, even if it's very minimal, before you can step into the unknown in a big way. That unknown is where all possibility is, but it's also what can bring fruit to you in ways unimaginable unless you took that leap into the unknown. And the fear of the unknown, fear of security are very normal things for all of us to feel. But we can't let that stop us from having a transformational experience and experiencing what we have got potential of as a being or as human beings, whether it's with work or relationships or experiencing in general. Follow your heart, and that will take you places that you can't even fathom until you experience them. And from that fruit, that will propel you to keep doing it because it's addictive. And you're now tapping into the field, God, source, creator, whatever you want to term that. So follow your heart.
Thank you, Peter, for saying that. It came to my mind, and to conclude, I want to add first thing, a little bit may be far-fetched, but still bring it up. It's kind of the meditation state. Everyone who experienced the meditation state will maybe also then say, oh, that is a different state of, if we look at it like a relaxation, and you would never have expected that kind of difference. But I would then also say, like you said, feel the difference. But what I'm more called to bring up is we have things, you can look at it from this or that perspective and put words to it like, okay, dark and light, or positive and negative. But sacred space or a sanctuary and other things can be beneficial for all. In other words, we might look at things in this world and everywhere, and they seem to be sometimes far away from us and seem to have no impact on us at all. But the truth is totally different. It might seem to be far away, but it has an effect where there is something where we would say, if it is really near and dear to us, really near in the sense, oh, it's in the place of the neighborhood, and let's say there's really the war going on, it would really have an impact on us. And so, in other words, we should really recognize things may seem to be far away from us, but if they are really not good, we must do everything to stop them, to turn the thing around. And in other words, these things, what has happened and is going on our planet, must be turned around. It is beneficial for all, not only those who are living here, but it will come to realization, it has come to realization to everyone who is living somewhere in this universe, as far-fetched as it
it's all
seems.
connected.
We never need to let these things happen again, that there are so many, let's say, discrepancies, so many extreme conditions. No, it can be extreme conditions, but it must be in a balanced, more balanced way. And I'm called to put that forward. These kind of spaces are beneficial for all. It's beautiful for all.
I'll just say this. I had an experience probably a decade ago. And it was with Archangel Michael and Metatron. And I don't want to sound airy-fairy here. But before it took place, I basically had a life review of all the bad I ever done to anybody like this. Everything within seconds. It seemed like forever, but it was within seconds. And I saw it from everyone else's perspective, and they said, hang on. And I didn't know who it was at the time, and then I saw all the good that I'd done from everyone else's perspective. Then I heard over and over, what you say and what you do affects everyone and everything. What you do and what you say affects everyone and everything. And that is one of the biggest revelations and insight, as simplistic as that sounds, and it has stuck with me to this day. And just some food for thought.
Oh, Peter, let's leave it like that. And again, looking forward to our next recording.
As always, Henning, it's always good, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, blessings. And again, all the best, and all the best for all.